Hello everyone. Today we shall look into the IT ticket help desk analysis report. Here I have opened my Power BI. Let us bring in the data by clicking on this get data Excel workbook. Here I have my IT ticket analysis data set. I'll select it, open the data set. Here we have two tables. One table is IT agents where we have the details about IT agents, and another table it belongs to the ticket information where we have the factual data about resolution time and satisfaction rate. Okay, here I'll select the two tables which are present, and I'll just click on transform data. Here we are in our Power Query editor where we have the data set with respect to tickets as well as the IT agents. What we have to do is let us rename the table. Here IT agents, it is fine. Instead of tickets 1, I'll rename it to just tickets. Okay, by selecting the properties name, I'll just rename to tickets. Let us check the columns. Here we have ID ticket. Instead of the column name as fetch, I'll write date. Okay, in the here we have employee ID, agent ID, request category, issue type, severity, priority, resolution time and satisfaction rate. Here I'll select the severity. As you could see here, we have the severity key, the 0 we have as key, and unclassified it is the type of severity. So we would need to separate this by splitting the columns. I'll select the split by delimiter from the home tab. Okay, here what we'll do is we'll select the custom delimiter. Okay, the custom delimiter is space minus space. I'll select OK. Here you'll see that my severity column is now split into two columns. Similarly, I would split my priority column with a delimiter. Okay, with the same delimiter using custom delimiter, I'll write space minus space. At each occurrence of the delimiter, I'm going to split it. Okay, we could rename the column. This column I'll rename it as severity key, and this column name I'll keep it as only severity. Okay, so now this data is cleaned. Similarly with the priority, I'll name it as priority key, and here I'll name it as priority. Make sure that while you rename, no space is left so that your column name is properly identified. Here we have resolution time and satisfaction rate. Suppose that our resolution time is less than 3.5. It is mentioned to be within SLA. If it is outside 3.5, it is outside SLA. Okay, we shall make a custom column for it. I'll go to add column, create a custom column. Here I'll write SLA status. In the function, I'll write a simple if condition. If my resolution days it is less than 3.5, then in double quotations I'll write within SLA, else here I'll write outside SLA. So we have a simple if else condition, and there are no syntax errors, so that we can just click OK. Our custom column is now formed. We'll change the data type to text. Okay, now we have our custom column according to the requirement. We'll see, we can further investigate and understand what are the other requirements. Let us move on to this IT agents column. Here you could notice that with respect to the names, we have in the full name, we don't have the full name in many places. Suppose that here I have 8th ratio, which means Alberto ratio. So in many places we don't have the last name and full names correctly. So what we would do is we'll remove this full name column. Okay, by using email column we'll make the full name. What we'll do is I'll go to I'll click on email. I'll go to add column and extract text before delimiter. The delimiter of this text, it would be dot. I'll click OK. Okay, this would be my first name, where you could see that these names are my first names. Okay, and I'll go to the same email column again. Here I'll extract text between delimiters. So I would like to extract the text between dot and at the rate. So this would help me with the last name. I'll go to the right. Here you could see that this column, which you are able to see, it is my last name. Okay, now these two columns, here I'll select it. I'll go to transform and I'll just trim, and in the format again I'll clean, so that no unnecessary spaces are there and no issues arise. Again I'll go to format and capitalize each word, so that my word, which is first name and last name, they are capitalized. Now I'll select the column, the first name and the last name accordingly. And what I'll do is, in the transform we have merge columns here. I'll select merge columns. Here I have the separator. I'll take the space separator, and the column name I'll provide it as full name. I'll click OK. Now we have the full name, which we have extracted from the email. And here, if you could notice, we have year of birth, month of birth and day of birth. By using these three columns, we would like to make the date of birth. I'll click on add column, click on the custom column. Here in the custom, I'll write date of birth. Here in the as a function, I'll write hash date. In the year, what I'll bring is the year of birth. I'll put a comma. I'll bring in the month of birth, and I'll put a comma and bring in the day of birth. I'll close the parenthesis. Here our hash date function, it would make the date, as you could notice here, and we would change the data type to the date. So our date of birth column is now made, and the client requires the number of age, age difference, according to the date of birth, and also the current date, which is 2020 12/31 as mentioned in the document. I would provide you the link where you could find the instructions, all the necessary changes which I am doing. You could find it and make some understanding and practice. Here what I'll do is, I'll add another custom column. I'll click on custom column. Here I'll write age, and in the custom formula what I'll write is the date by using hash date. Inside date I'll write 2020 12/31, close the parenthesis, minus, I'll include the date of birth column. It is a basic subtraction which we do, and as I click OK, here you could notice that age column, it is in my duration format. In duration format, we usually get a date of which consists of days, total number of days, hours, minutes and seconds. So this column, I'll select it. Our duration is enabled. I'll select the duration and I'll make it to total years. As soon as I make it to total years, you could see the value in decimals. What I could do is, I can click on this column. Okay, instead of changing the total years by adding a new column, what you could do is go to transform tab, select the duration and click on total years, so that you could transform in the same column. And select the same column, click on rounding, let us round down the values so that age could be reflected in the whole number of years. So this is the age column where we have with respect to the IT agents. Here you could notice that there are only 50 rows in the IT agents, and if we go to tickets table, here we have, if we should click on this column profiling on the entire data set, you'll notice that there are around 97,000 rows. Here you could notice that there are around 97,498 rows which are distinct values where they are unique tickets. So this information will help us to understand and analyze the data which belongs to the tickets information. So far we have seen all the columns and made the necessary changes in Power Query with respect to data cleaning. Okay, what we shall do is we shall load the data set into our Power BI desktop, and further we could do further analysis. I'll click on close and apply in home tab. Now our data will be loaded into the Power BI desktop. Here I'll click on apply changes, and the necessary changes would be evaluated and loaded. Our data set is now loaded. Here in the data pane you could see that there are two tables. One is IT agents and another is tickets. So we could expand and see the necessary columns. Okay, and with respect to the columns, where what we can do is we could create a date table where our date columns could be utilized as a date table. Okay, and if we could mark the date table as date table, so that we could perform some time intelligence functions if required. To create a date table, what we need to do is click on this new table. Here I'll write calendar equal to, I'll write add columns. Here the table, I'll use the calendar function. Okay, in the start date I'll use the date, which is 2016 0101, from the date on which the data is available. And in the end date I'll use the date function, where the ending date is 2020 1231. Okay, I'll close the parenthesis. This is our table. Okay, I'll put a comma. Here let us bring in additional columns where we could fetch the year. I'll write year. Okay, in the expression I'll write year, and I'll write calendar date. We have this date column. Okay, I'll close the parenthesis. I'll put a comma. I'll bring in month. I'll write month, and I'll bring in date column. Close the parenthesis. I'll write quarter. Here I'll write format date, and in the format I'll write backslash QQ, so that I could bring the quarter. And here I'll write month name, and I'll write format. I'll bring in date column. What I'll write is, in the format I'll put 3 M's. I'll put a comma. Here I'll write day column, and I'll write day, where I'll bring in the date. Okay, here we have written the calendar table where we could fetch in the necessary values. I'll close the parenthesis. Okay, and hit enter. I'll get back to the model view so that I could show you the relationship. Here we have tickets table, and here we have IT agents, and here we have the calendar table where we could relate the date column with the date in tickets table. So since we have made the severity key and priority key in the tickets table, what we could do is we can get back to the transform data, and what we could do is we could normalize it by making a priority and severity table. To make it possible, what we shall do is I'll duplicate this tickets table. I'll duplicate it. Here I'll make this table as severity. Okay, I'll scroll to the right. What we could do is I'll select this severity key column and severity, and here I'll remove other columns. Okay, so I'll select the severity key and remove duplicates. Now we have a small table where it consists of the severity types and the severity key, which are unique, from ranging from 0 to 4. This is the table where we could see about the severity information. Similarly, what I could do is I could duplicate the tickets table, and then we could make this as priority table. Okay, this priority table will keep the priority key and priority columns, and we'll go to the fact table and make the changes. Here what we shall do is I'll scroll to the right. I'll keep select this priority key and priority columns. I'll right click and remove other columns. Okay, I'll select the priority key, right click and remove duplicates, so that there are no repeated rows which are duplicates, and we have this priority rows which are unique. Here we have ranging from 0 to 3, which is unassigned, low, mid and high. Okay, and we'll go back to the tickets table. We'll select this severity and priority columns, and we'll remove that. Okay, I have selected these two columns. I'll right click and remove columns. Now we have reduced two columns which consists of around 97,000 rows, where we are trying to make it little more efficient and better by making another table. So as soon as I close and apply, here the respective tables will be loaded. As you could see that it is my severity, priority, tickets and IT agents all are being evaluated. Okay, now it is evaluating. Here in the model view, we could see that we have the priority table as well as the severity table. We could make this kind of star schema where we could work on the respective tables. Okay, we could make this kind of star schema. We could make certain analysis and like understanding where we could filter the data in appropriate way. So as a best practice, we have made the cleaning and we made the data modeling. Let us move to the report view and let us go to the home tab and create a measures table. I'll click on enter data. Here I'll name the table as measures table. I'll just click on load. Okay, we have made our measures table, so that where we could save our measures, all the DAX measures which we could write in this measures table. Now we are done with all these basic steps which are required. Let us move ahead with little formatting. As per the client requirement, we would require to format the page with the settings of 1080 and 1920. We shall click on this page, go to canvas settings, click on custom. Here we have the height, set it to 1080 height, and the width it must be 1920. So this is the requirement as per the client, where it is mentioned in the instructions. So this is the information with respect to the size, where you could, if you fit to the page by selecting this right icon which is in the top right icon below here. Okay, so it will fit to page, this icon which is in the top right, bottom right of the page. Okay, here we have this report which is set to 1920 1080 pixels, and now we could little bring in the background of a light color. I'll choose a blue color, theme color, and I'll decrease the transparency, like making to 25. Let us take this color where we could work on this background. I'll insert a text box where I'll give my heading as IT Helpdesk Tickets Analysis. I'll write IT Helpdesk Tickets Analysis. I'll select it, keep the font color as blue, little bold it, make the size to around 32. Okay, here or else you could make it to 36. Okay, I'll just reduce the size a little bit. You could center align it. Okay, and you could even pull the text box to a little bottom. You could pull it to bottom. I'll select the text box. I'll select the size and style. Here if you scroll down, you can turn on the visual border and shadow. I'll keep a little white shadow, and I'll keep the visual border, and I'll round the corners. Okay, here I'll write this heading again. So we have this heading, IT Helpdesk Tickets Analysis. Okay, we could customize it accordingly. And in the right side, I would like to bring in some slicers, where I'll select this slicer. Here what I would like to bring is the year from the calendar table, which is my year. I would go to the format. I would select the slicer settings. I would make it a drop down. Okay, I'll increase the size of values to maybe 15, and I'll remove the slicer header. I'll turn on the title and I'll make it as year. Here in the background color I'll put it little darker, and text color I'll keep it white. Okay, I'll keep it center aligned so that it will be a slicer of better size, visible size. Okay, text title color, heading size I could little improve, make it to 16 if possible to appear. Okay, here I'll go to size and style. Let us turn on the border, and let us round the corners a little bit, and here let us turn on the shadow, make it white. So we have this year slicer, align it accordingly. Similarly, according to the year, we want the other slicers like quarter, month and day. What we shall do is we shall copy this, okay, and we shall paste it. Here I'll select quarter instead of year. Okay, I'll rename the title which is present as quarter. Okay, and similarly I'll select this quarter text card, sorry, slicer. I'll copy this. I'll make it to month. If you notice the difference between the sizes, I'll go to size and style. You could see it is 110 and 208. I'll select this quarter, and here I'll make it as 208 so that the sizes are aligned. So instead of quarter, I'll bring in month name from the calendar table. Okay, and in the title I'll make the change from quarter to month name. Okay, I'll select this slicer. I'll copy it and make the day slicer. Instead of month name, I'll bring in the day. Okay, and in the title I'll make it as day. Okay, now we have made 4 slicers where I could choose the respective slicers and filter out the data. I'm arranging it so that it looks uniform. Okay, now we have respective slicers. Let us bring in few measures where we could analyze certain KPIs. We'll select the measure table. Let us write few measures where we could understand some basic things. I'll click on measure table. I'll create a new measure. Here I'll write a measure called total tickets equal to distinct count ticket column, where I could bring in the number of tickets. So it will count all the distinct tickets, where it could help me understand like how many tickets are available or how many tickets are received. So I'll make a few other measures where I'll select the measure table and create new measure. Let us understand what is the average resolution time, which is called ART. I'll write average resolution time equal to average. We have resolution number of days. I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. Let us make few more measures. I'll select the measure table, create a new measure. Let us understand the average satisfaction rate, which is called as ASR. I'll write average satisfaction rate equal to average. We could bring this satisfaction rate column, close the parenthesis and hit enter. Okay, we will create another measure where we have respective columns based upon the within CSA, within SLA and outside SLA tickets, I'll write within SLA equal to calculate total tickets where SLA status equal to within SLA. I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. In order to calculate the percentage of tickets which are SLA compliant, what we could do is we shall create another measure where we could name it as SLA compliant equal to, here we could write divide function. In the numerator we'll write within SLA, in the denominator we'll write total tickets. I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. We'll select this measure and just change it to percentage, since it is the percentage measure, so that it could reflect the appropriate value. Okay, now we'll create a new measure where we could count the total number of tickets which is outside SLA. I'll write outside SLA equal to calculate. In the expression I'll write total tickets. In the filter condition I'll write SLA status equal to outside SLA. Okay, close the parenthesis and hit enter, so that it could calculate the total tickets which are outside SLA, and we could calculate the non-SLA compliant percentage based upon the total tickets. Like, we'll create another measure where I'll write non-SLA compliant equal to divide outside SLA with the total tickets. Close the parenthesis and hit enter. Okay, here we shall bring in these measures into our text card, so that we could understand how they are varying and what are the respective values. We have something called as new text card. I'll show the new text card. Here we'll select this new text card. Here we can bring in all the data and make the necessary changes. Here we have, let us select one after the other. I have total tickets, right? I have the other measure which is within SLA, and I have something called as SLA compliant. Let us bring in the measure which is outside SLA, and let us bring in the measure which is non-SLA compliant. Okay, let us bring in the measure which is average resolution time, and let us bring in this value which is average satisfaction rate. Okay, if we little customize, what we could do is we could bring in these measures all at the same place, and we could bring it into the top, and we could little format it. Here if you select the non-SLA compliant, change it into percentage because it is in decimal here, so that it could appear in the percentage terms. Okay, now we shall go to the format. Here we have, we can select this new text card. Okay, we have by default, headings which we have, it is fine. What we need to do is we have to make necessary changes to the values, or else values, the size, it is fine. Here we have, if we could adjust any spacing or anything, if it is necessary, we could make it. Here I'll keep it as rounded rectangle, so that the inner shape of rounded rectangle corners, it could be well appearing. We could little customize it, where you could increase or decrease the corners, okay, based upon the percentage if you want. Otherwise you could turn it off. Okay, here I have something called as layout, where you could adjust with the space between cards. Okay, and also the values in the call out, in the values a little bold it, so that you could see it. Otherwise we could keep the same. The display units, since every display the units, these units are different, we could make it the same. Okay, here we have title, where we could provide the title for respective cards. And if I select the cards, you could see all the necessary information here. I can turn on the accent bar, and I'll little color it with this color, and I could increase the width a little bit. I'll increase the width to maybe 4, or else I'll make it to 10. Here I have turned off the background which is present in size and style, so that I could make it appear in this way, where I have turned off the background, and it looks fine for me. Okay, now we shall make few charts, where we could bring in the charts based upon the dimensions which we have. Let us analyze the total number of tickets based upon the severity and priority. Okay, I'll bring in the bar chart. I'll select a bar chart. Okay, here in the bar chart we'll have this y-axis as severity. Here I'll bring in the severity column from into a y-axis, and in x-axis I'll bring in the measure which is my total tickets. So you could see that if a little format. Okay, in the severity we have the normal column as highest. What I could do is I'll turn on the data labels. Okay, and I'll keep it at the inside end. Okay, and I'll go to values, increase the size a little bit so that it appears, and I'll go to title, and I'll make the background color as dark blue, and this text color as white, and center align it. Okay, I could increase the header size to maybe 16, so that it appears. And maybe for x-axis and y-axis I could make certain changes. Here I'll turn off the this title for y-axis, because it is understandable by title which is mentioned. For similarly for the x-axis I'll turn off the title, because it is not required. And the values I'll little bold it so that it appears. And similarly in the y-axis for the values I'll little bold it. Okay, now this is my visual, where I could notice that normal, major and minor tasks, like normal tickets are more, major and minor tickets are comparatively less. Okay, here you could see you are not able to see the other values. So what I'll do is, yeah, I'll go to position, I'll keep it as outside end, so that it will appear at the outside end. And display units, instead of thousands I'll keep it none. Okay, so that the values appear, and you could notice that difference, how it is varying. I'll go to size and style, where I could turn on the border, round the corners a little bit, so that it could appear better. I'll round the corners, and I'll turn on the shadow, where I could give some white shadow effect. Okay, I'll make this chart a smaller one, so that you could notice the difference. Okay, and I'll copy the chart. Here, instead of severity, let us understand how priority tickets are varying according to the volume. Here, instead of severity, I'll bring in the priority tickets. Okay, and let us change the uh, column type to the column chart, where you could notice the difference, that the values, it is ranging from 35,000 till 15,000 based upon the priority. High priority tickets are more, compared to the low and mid priority tickets. You could notice here within the chart. Here, what we could and analyze further is with respect to the category of tickets. Okay, now with respect to the category, what we shall do is we shall bring in a waterfall chart where we could analyze year wise categories, and what is the difference, how it is varying. Okay, here I'll make it into column chart. I'll copy the chart. Okay, so that we don't repeat the formatting again and again. Okay, we have this formatting. Here we have something where we could bring in the waterfall chart with respect to the categories. In x-axis, I'll bring in the calendar year so that I could view the year, and I could, okay, in the type of chart I could change it to waterfall. Okay, we have in the category we have years, and in the breakdown what we shall do is from the tickets table we can bring in this request category. Okay, now it is in the downtrend. What we need to do is select these three dots, click on ascending. Okay, now it will be made into the ascending manner. You could align it where it is a little suitable and appear like where it appears better. Okay, here you could align in a proper way according to the required size and shape so that it appears properly. Okay, now I hope it is visible. Here I could mention the total tickets by year and request category. You could see that every year the number of tickets which are received, it is varying like in a large extent based upon the particular category. Suppose system category, it is receiving 668 tickets in the beginning, while we have reached at 2019 and 2020 it has reached to 3135 tickets. So this could provide some insights. So similarly, what we could do is we shall analyze the total tickets based upon the month wise, and also we could draw some insight based upon the line chart. So here we'll make this as line chart, and let us analyze uh, by making the by removing the request category from the legends. Okay, here we have yearly volume of tickets. Okay, in this year what we could mention is from the calendar table we can bring in the quarter, and again we could bring in the measure as the month name measure as well, or else the month name column which is made in this calendar. I'll select the month name. So here, in order to make it properly visible, what I'll do is a little drill up. Okay, you could make it a area chart as well so that you find the area chart properly visible, or else you could make it into line chart where you could drill down and watch further values. If you find difficulty in watching the data values, what you could do is select the data labels. Okay, scroll down. Here we have values and you could bold it. Okay, these are the few charts which we have made. Let us understand further. Let us bring a donut chart and understand how our issue types are varying. Okay, here we have this donut chart. Okay, let us copy the existing chart in order to reduce the formatting efforts. Here I'll select the donut chart, and here instead of priority what I'll bring is the issue type from the tickets. Here we'll select this issue type. Okay, here we have the IT request and IT errors. What we can do is I'll select this slices, make some change in this color. Maybe I'll select this color. Okay, and instead of this I'll put it little lighter color. Okay, so that the color would be appearing that how many errors are there and how many requests are we have how many requests we have received. And what we could do is further we could turn off the legends, and instead of values we could put this category and percent of total in this detail labels, so that the space which has been occupied, it could be reduced to some extent. Okay, now we have these charts where we could put in these values. Okay, we could if at all we are able to accommodate, we could still accommodate few other charts, like here I'll little reduce this, and here we could bring in this issue type. Okay, what I could do is I'll reduce the size of this line chart, and I'll increase the size of this waterfall chart. Okay, so that to keep it aligned, I'll bring in one more chart which is my line chart, where I could bring in the values of satisfaction rate with respect to the total tickets. Now what I'll do is I'll just copy the existing chart. Here what I'll do is I'll make this chart a line chart. Okay, and if at all we see here, we shall remove this x-axis, and we shall bring in the satisfaction rate from the tickets column. I'll bring in the satisfaction rate, and in the y-axis we have total tickets. In the secondary y-axis we do not put anything, but here in the legends what we shall do is we shall bring in the issue type, where we could analyze the total number of tickets and also with request received as well as the errors with respect to the volume. So this could help us with the total number of tickets that has been dealt with. If you would like to change the data labels to thousands, here you could scroll down, select the values, and here display units you could select thousands, so that you could understand fairly like how many tickets are received and how many errors are happening with respect to that satisfaction level. Okay, and similarly as we done in the other charts, you could turn off the title for x-axis and y-axis, so that it is like it is, since it is by defaultly understandable with respect to the title which has been provided. Okay, here from the x-axis I could remove the title. Okay, and from the values I could little bold it, and similarly in the y-axis I could go to the values and little bold the values. Okay, this is how we have made our report. What we shall do is we shall select all the reports, all the charts. Okay, by selecting it, what we can do is we can just align using the keyboard, whether we want to bring it to the top or bottom, we could do it. Okay, here I'm bringing this charts to the necessary alignment, and I'll little bit increase the bottom charts to make it little visible and appear better. So we have this IT help desk tickets analysis, where we could see the overview of the details. Okay, now let us duplicate the page and see further information about the IT agents.